Hey, I'm Jim Richards, and I got some great news for you. I got a free gift for you. I want to help you. I want to bless you. I just recently published my new book, Wired for Success, Programmed for Failure. I'll tell you, this is an incredible book that teaches you how to live out of your heart, how to experience prosperity in your heart so that no matter what's going on in the world around you, you can succeed. Now listen. I wrote this book because a few years ago, God showed me what was coming to America economically. And the thing that he showed me was that people who were just barely getting by were going to go under. People who didn't know how to live the truth out of their heart would not be able to follow God's plan for success in the midst of hard times. So I've got this great book, Wired for Success, Programmed for Failure. Now listen, changing what we believe about finances and how we manage money is one of the most challenging areas of our life. So here's what I've done. If you purchase the book, Wired for Success, Programmed for Failure, you can go to my website and you can find a key word that you can use to watch 5 hours of free videos about how to apply the information in this book. This an incredible offer. This stuff is going to help you. 5 hours of training to help you apply what you learned in this one book. It's for free. I want to be a blessing to you. I want you to succeed and have the very best.
Good to have you here with us. Now, we're going to review a little bit from where we left off, and we're going to go back into and talk in detail, and we'll probably take some questions, so whoever's going to handle that mic, be ready. And we're going to talk a little bit about painting your life's picture. And this is an exercise that we discussed just before we ended the last session. Painting your life's picture, and the reason I use that whole concept of painting, or the terminology of painting your life picture, is because you have to see something to believe it. And you will only believe what you see. That means you've either got to see it with the eyes of your heart, or you've got to see it with your physical eye. But one way or the other, you have to be able to perceive it. So your heart will only allow you to go in a place that you have seen. And so the painting your life picture starts with, and I'm going to review exactly what I told you before, but I'm going to add a few components to it and give you a few explanations and details. That right there was just me getting shocked from walking across the carpet, by the way. Or maybe it was anointing. So as I said earlier, I really encourage you, get you a little notebook, get you something that you're not going to use for anything else, put it beside your bed. I actually have an ink pen beside my bed that, when you click it, it lights up. And the reason I have that is just so if in the night I want to write something, I can immediately pick it up and write, because most of your dreams you'll only remember for 30 or 60 seconds if you don't do something to recall them. Now, in painting your life picture, you're going to have a notebook, and you're going to write a character sketch on the very first page. Character sketch. This present positive, present tense, positive and personal. This is who I am. You write this character sketch, and then and then on the second page or second section, you're going to write a contract, and this contract is going to be with yourself about a particular goal that you're going to accomplish. That has to do with that particular character sketch. In other words, if I'm writing my character sketch and I'm going to work on the area of finances, then I'm going to write a character sketch about finances, success, prosperity. And I'm going to share a personal story with you, just this way I can give you some practical insights into doing this. One of the first times I did this, I wrote a character sketch about success. And see, for me, I had reached a place to where I had pretty much maxed out my capabilities to succeed on my own skills. And I had spent hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years trying to find people with certain skills, because I knew I was as far as I could go. And I knew what needed to be done, or knew most of what needed to be done. And if I hadn't, that'd been all right too. It's fine. If I hadn't known what needed to be done, I would have written this out a little bit different. But I knew what needed to be done, but I could not find people with the skills that could do it. And so I wrote out a character sketch that had to do with identifying and finding people. I find people that are going where I'm going, that can walk with me, that can maintain the level of creativity I desire. I'm comfortable with these people. Just a character sketch about me doing this and about prosperity in general. So then, took that character sketch, I wrote a contract with myself, and I said, I entered this contract with myself on this day, that over the next, I don't remember how many months, I put like 6 months, I will take my income level from where it is now to X number of dollars. And it was a pretty big figure. It was actually, I was going to be, my goal was to increase my income by about $1 million a year. And so, so I wrote some particulars of the contract and the time frame, I signed it, and put it down. Now here's the part I didn't tell you a while ago. Now based on this, I then created the terminology that I use in this is kind of slipping from me, but basically I turn around life investments, and I say now on the practical side, if this is what I'm going to do, then there's got to be some things on the practical side that I'm going to do, and I call these life investments. So my next page, so my first page is my character sketch, my next page is my contract, my next page is my life investments. Now life investments would be this. Okay, I'm going to, one of the things that, if I'm really living this, then one of the things I would do is, number one, every day I would do this exercise. So that's a life investment. If I do this, then every day I need to really have the energy to accomplish these goals. So how I eat, so healthy eating would be a part of this, and I'm gonna eat 3 meals a day. So I got 3 life investments on my meals. If I'm gonna do this, if I'm really going to accomplish this, then I need to spend a certain amount of time doing creative work every day. I need to spend X number of hours, or do this. And so basically, I just went down all the individual things that I would do if I was going to really accomplish this goal. And then I gave each one of those life investments a value, a point value. See, interesting thing about your mind is your mind works very well with numbers. And I really didn't realize this for years. But if you give something a numeric value, your mind then can attach significance to that. And pursuing it as a goal becomes a lot more natural, because it's almost like putting a dollar value on it. It has a point value. So I went in and I said, okay, the most important thing I can do every day is this exercise. So I'm going to give myself 20 points for this exercise. Every time, if all 3 of my meals I eat every day are based on energy, producing energy, feeling good after I eat, mental alertness, then I'm gonna make 3 meals worth 20 points. And if I vary from this, or if I eat stuff that's going to make me feel bad, I'm going to deduct points from it. So then I have my meals, and then the work time that I needed to put in was about 20 points. And then I thought, among other things, if I'm going to really be alert and do this, I really need to spend some time, about 30 minutes every day, exercising, just so I can keep myself alert. But anyhow, I just went through this whole list of things that had to do with work and rest and play and everything, and I gave them all a point value. And what you want to do is you want to basically come up with 100 points. So it's like a test. It's like a perfect score is 100 points. So now you've got these life investments that total 100 points. And then I'm going to say, now what are the 2 or 3 at the most affirmations that I need to make that would persuade my heart in this direction? So my affirmations were this. I wrote one affirmation that said, I meet and recognize people who have the skills and the attitude to help me accomplish my goals. That was one affirmation I wrote down. My second affirmation was, what was the second affirmation? Second affirmation was that my income would go up a certain amount. I can't even remember the exact, but my second affirmation was a creativity, creative ideas that create prosperity and success come natural and easy for me. And then the third one was I had a piece of property that was intimately linked to my ability to make investments, business investments like I needed to make. So I said, so my third affirmation was this piece of property, we will get $1 million for this piece of property within a certain period of time. So I got my contract. I painted my life's picture. I've written a character sketch. Then I entered into a contract with myself. Then I got my life investments that have a point value, and then I've got my affirmations that I'm going to make. So then evening comes, I start realizing I'm getting sleepy. And when I start realizing I'm getting sleepy, right then I take out my journal and I total up my life investment points for the day. So now see, this gives you something to keep you in touch with reality. If your life investment points for 3 or 4 days in a row are 40 or 60, then you got to sit and say, you know what, I obviously do not want this. And I need to readjust this because I've set the goal too high or something, but you got to reevaluate it. But if your life investment points are 70 or above, then you know on the practical side, you're putting works with your faith. You're doing something practical that supports the goals that you hope to have. So, and to do your life investment, all you're doing is just totaling up your life investments for the day because you got them already written down. And so, that's going to take you all of maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Now, this is really important. You do this, you write this in longhand. This is really important. Don't do anything on your computer and don't print. Write it in longhand. And then when you write your affirmations, you write your affirmations out in longhand and you close your book and that's it. And you go to sleep. And if you let me just say this, if you have difficulties going to sleep, most people over 30 have a magnesium deficiency. No, for real. And magnesium actually is responsible for about 600 cellular functions, and it's incredibly important. And in fact, most people over 30 have a melatonin deficiency. And if you don't sleep in total darkness, your body will not produce melatonin. I don't know if you're aware of that. If you sleep with lights on, television on, this sort of thing, it actually reduces melatonin production in your body. So just kind of on the natural side to work with this, there's a product called ZMA. And ZMA is magnesium, vitamin B6, magnesium, B6, don't remember the other thing. But basically, it makes it bioavailable for your body so it absorbs very well. And so if you have trouble falling asleep or you fall asleep inconsistently, then about 30 minutes or an hour before you want to go to sleep, take you some ZMA and one melatonin. And it'll take it about 30 or 40 minutes and you'll start relaxing. And let me just say this about magnesium, by the way. If you take too much magnesium, it'll make your bowels loose. So there's a company called Now, and their products are very reasonably priced. And there's a lot of different companies that put out ZMA. But, it's zinc, magnesium, and B6. And so with ZMA, like at my weight, I take 4 ZMAs and 1 melatonin, which would mean if you weighed 160 pounds, you might take 3. If you're a female that weighs 90 to 130 pounds, you might just take 2. But anyhow, that helps you consistently get to where you'll fall asleep a lot easier. Now let's talk about why we do this at night, and then we're going to talk about what you do the next morning. We're going and the next step that follows this. You see, one of the things that I've searched for years, because I've done heart work for years. I've been doing this stuff, like I say, for pretty much 39 years. So for me, sitting down, meditating, getting into my heart zone, I can slow my mind down from high activity to entering into what's called the theta state. I can do that in about 45 seconds. And I don't know if you realize it, but that's pretty much a phenomenal feat that most people spend. It takes about 20 years to get to where you can do this. Well, most people are not going to be patient and develop themselves. And if you do heart physics, any of you that have done heart physics, you've been learning how to do this. You've been learning how to enter the alpha state. But basically, there are mental states. When you're awake, alert, observing things, you're in the beta state, and your brain waves are moving at a higher frequency, and all of your attention there is focused outward. As you become relaxed and your brain waves begin to slow down, you will enter what's called the alpha state. Now, what's interesting about the alpha, well, there's all kinds of interesting things about the alpha state, and I can't go into too much of it right now. You'll get all this in Heart Physics should you choose to do this. But you know, all of the biblical things that it tells you to do when you're worshiping causes you to enter the alpha state. And in the alpha state, what happens is because your brain waves slow down, then your intellectual mind is not as much in control. It's not that you lose any awareness or that sort of thing, but your attention tends to go more inward and you become very aware inwardly, and you're able to recognize the thoughts of your heart without the thoughts of your mind controlling everything and twisting everything and forcing everything to go the way your mental ideas want it to go. And you know, this is a very functional definition, by the way. This is not technically literally exact. This is just more functional. Now, there's another lower state. By the way, when you enter the alpha state, you are in meditation. And by the way, the alpha state, there's not just like one level of the alpha state. There's several levels that your brain waves slow down. There's upper alpha, and you go down to lower alpha, and then they go into what's called the theta state. The theta state is where your brain waves slow down even more, and in the theta state, you really begin to be able to zero in very much just on what's going on in your heart, and with virtually non-distractible by outside information. And then if you do this long enough, and I can do this sometimes, I can't do it as consistently as I can get in the theta state, but you can get to the delta state. And the delta state is an even lower state that you enter into. Now, there is a medical theory that says that you can only correct a problem if you enter the state you were in when you created the problem. Now, there were tests done with medical doctors, and you know, medical doctors, when they're going to school, they get subjected to a lot of tests. And so one of the particular tests that they did with these medical doctors is they took them out to a bar, got them ridiculously drunk, and then they gave them some questions and answers while they were drunk. In other words, the answer to this question is this, the answer to this question is this. And they weren't logical questions that you would have any reason to remember. So they're drunk, they learn this information while they're drunk, and this was an actual test. So when they sober up, they ask them these questions, they can't remember them, can't get them right. They take them back out and get them drunk again, and when they get drunk and reach that intoxicated state, and they ask them the questions, they can answer them. Why? Because they are now back in the state they were in when they originally learned that information. Now you got to realize something. When you were in your mother's womb, you were actually in the delta state. The delta state is one of the most rapid learning states that there is, because the delta state has no mental filters at all. In other words, the delta state, you don't have any intellectual thoughts saying, let me filter that, let me see what I think about that, let me base that on my past memories. The delta state is all about energetic impressions. In other words, you feel the attitudes, you feel the emotions, you feel everything that's going on around you. And from shortly after conception till 2 or 3 years old, you're in the delta state. And actually, most of your sense of self, almost everything you believe about yourself, was developed in the delta state. In other words, the feelings and attitude that the people around you had, the environment in your household, how emotional, the emotions your mother felt while you were being carried. And many times when you do heart work, you will literally get back to beliefs that you created while you were in the womb. Now, when you leave the delta state, you go into the theta state, and when you go into the theta state, I don't remember right now off the top of my head, at 2 or 3 years old, you'll go into, and actually it varies, there's no exact age, 2 or 3 years old, you go into the theta state. Now in the theta state, you're still strongly affected by impressions, but now there is some cognitive, intellectual is not the word, I'm just going to say cognitive Now there's some cognitive filtering. In other words, you've had some life experiences, and so there is some intellectual input. So you're still getting impressions, but those impressions are filtered a little bit by intellectual input. Now, then somewhere around 5, 6, somewhere, and I don't even remember. You study this stuff and you put the right answers on the test when you take the test, and then you get in an environment like this and you go, oh, what was that? I don't know. But anyhow, somewhere around 5 or 6 years old, you're going to enter into the alpha state, and you're going to stay in the alpha state anywhere from 9 to 12 years old. I mean, it's just, I don't remember the exact dates. But here's the interesting thing about the alpha state. And see, this is why children are so impressionable, is because in the alpha state, or anywhere until up about 11, 12 years old, they are constantly in a meditative state, which means information is almost going straight to their heart, because they don't have the intellectual filters in place to deal with it. And like I said, the deepest beliefs you have about you were developed in the delta state. Now, stop and think about this. You're a child. You've been in a meditative state, which means almost every decision you've made has been intuitive. And you're about 11 years old, 12 years old. You come out of this alpha state, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. Now you go into beta, which means what should have happened for you is, and by the way, this is probably where the Jews got their ideas that you become an adult at 12 years old. You go through your bar mitzvah, because now you are functioning. Your heart has been established, and now you're functioning in the mental beliefs that emerge from your heart. So what should have happened to us, we should have been established in a healthy sense of self-worth. We should have been made to feel incredibly loved. We should have had a loving, positive environment around us that created a sense of self, not an intellectual definition of self, but that created a sense of self. So now you hit about 12 years old, and now the thoughts of the mind, thoughts of the heart, as they emerge, direct your intellectual thinking, and you start making great decisions. But that's not what happens. We got low self-worth, we feel rejected, we feel unloved, and we come out of all of that just in time for puberty. And really, just stop and think about it. We're in puberty, and we're now having to rely on intellectual decision making based on every sense of self that has been established from conception to that age. Pretty scary. But now stop and think about it. If this theory is true, and it is to some degree, I'm sure, if I developed a belief about me when I was in the alpha state, the easiest and most effective way to get to that belief is when I'm in the alpha state. If I developed a belief when I'm in the theta state, the easiest and most effective way to get to that belief is in the theta state. Now, I don't know how, I can't give you everything I'd like to give you today. You just can't. There's just time limitations. But again, that's why we have resource material, because I got volumes of how to put it into practice resource material, where you're not just getting information, but you're learning how to put it in practice. All right. As you are going to sleep, by the time you get within about 15 minutes of going to sleep, you're in a theta state. So you're already in you're at least going to be in low alpha state, but low alpha, high theta. So you're already going to be in a state that many people would have to practice 20 years of meditative work to get into. So in this meditative state, you have the ability to influence your heart and bypass your mind. Now, there's a reason I want you to write cursive, longhand. There is a process whereby, I am slipping things out of my memory here in the afternoon. I trust you'll forgive me on this. Maybe somebody can help me recall this if you've heard me teach on this or if you've studied this yourself. But there's a process through the nervous system whereby you bypass the brain, the intellectual control. And cursive writing is one of those places where you express in your writing what your true feelings are or what your true beliefs are. Now, I'm certified in handwriting analysis. And I'll do this sometimes if I'm out somewhere and I want to witness to somebody and I can't figure out a way to kind of, strike up an interesting conversation with them, and like, a waitress or a waiter or a clerk in a store. Sometimes I'll be in a store or something, I'll be talking to somebody, and I'll just get the desire to witness to them. I'm thinking, now, how am I going to get a conversation going here? And I'll kind of joke around with them, kind of see if I can get them open, and I'll say, you know what, I bet you I can tell you stuff about you that nobody knows. And they'll say, how are you going to do that? I said, I'll tell you what you do. I want you to write 3 sentences for me that describe yourself, and just write it in longhand. And they'll write 3 sentences about themselves in longhand. And I can take that piece of paper and I can look at their letters. I can tell if they're selfish and self-centered. I can tell if they're overly codependent and give too much away. I can tell if they think too much of themselves or think too little of themselves. I can tell if they can keep a secret or not keep a secret. I can tell actually how they want their sex life to be. I mean, it's almost unlimited. It's basically, a certified handwriting analysis, I could go in and testify in court as to the character and the belief of the person, and it would stand up in court. That's how accurate this science is. Well, the reason handwriting analysis is so effective is because when you're cursive writing, longhand writing, it's bypassing your brain, and so you are expressing what you really feel and believe. Does anybody remember that terminology? No, it's not neurolinguistic. Good try, though. I'll think of it in a moment. Now, what's interesting, because issues of the heart and many physiological issues and energetic issues are a continuum. And with a continuum, instead of something going cause and effect, here, in a linear direction, one direction, in a continuum, something manifests itself in different ways in either direction. In other words, I have this feeling in my heart, so when I'm writing, it's going to show up in my letters. The way I shape my letters, the way I put my letters on the page, the space I put between my letters, the space I put between the words. Everything about how I write is going to express what I really feel. Well, what's interesting, because it's a continuum, not only by writing will I express what I really feel on the inside, by writing, I can write what I choose, and it bypasses my brain and influences me on the inside. It's a motor response. Ideomotor response. It's an ideomotor response. Thank you. Give that man a pat on the back. Put a hickey on him. Go ahead. Right there. That's it. An ideomotor response. Thank you. So, with an ideomotor response, it doesn't matter if I'm thinking it and feeling it and it expresses out here, or if I express it out here, it can affect what I feel. So the reason I'm getting you to write longhand is because 15 minutes before you go to sleep, you're in low alpha state, high theta state, so you're already in a meditative state. You're writing this longhand, creating an ideomotor response, which means you can be writing something, and I'm telling you, you can be sitting there going, this is the dumbest thing, this is not going to work. It doesn't even matter what you're thinking when you write it. It was going to bypass, because this has to do with your nervous system, not your mental capabilities. And so it's going to bypass really your thought processes, and it's going to make an impression in your inner man because you're already in a meditative state. And so you've given your value, your life investment value, you've totaled that up. You've written these things out. And then another thing that that I'm going to do is every day I'm going to just, on that same page, and you just do this on one page, on that same page, I'm going to make a list of any positive differences that I'm seeing. So I'm in the alpha state or theta state, and I'm writing down the differences I'm seeing. I'm giving a numeric value to it, and I'm making an affirmation about where I'm going. And all of this, because of the state that I'm in, is bypassing my intellect and having an influence on my inner man. So, as I said earlier, then, when you go to sleep, the first third of the night, basically you're just going to kind of de-scramble, you're going to defrag, you're just going to you're going to have these dreams about what weird conversations you had during the day, television programs you watched during the day, you know what I mean? And basically, that's almost like just kind of sweeping out the clutter. And then the second third of the night, your dreams are precognitive dreams or prophetic dreams, where these things that you've written down now, see, you've written this down, this has bypassed your mind, this is influencing your heart on some level, and you're saying, this is me. Because you're right, this is first person, present tense, positive, you know. And so you're saying, this is who I am. So you did that in a meditative state, so you're going to have a dream or a series of dreams in the second third of the night that, like I said, they're precognitive. These are dreams where you see symbols and types, and it's never literal, but I say never, once in a blue moon it is. But you'll see symbols and types. You'll have dreams that your heart can conceptualize seeing you be this person and doing this thing. The last third of the night, you're going to have venting dreams. Venting dreams is where you are venting the beliefs or images of yourself that would prevent you from fulfilling the prophetic or precognitive dreams. And so again, they're all symbolic. They're metaphorical. They're not literal. So that's why you'll have dreams about sex, or you'll have dreams about committing some kind of sin, or dreams about violence, or dreams about fighting somebody, is because this has to do with releasing some belief or some idea about yourself that prevents this. Now, when you wake up in the morning, for about the first 15 minutes, 20 minutes in the morning, you're still going to be in a meditative state. Just based on how active you become and based on what you do, you're going to spend anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes in a meditative state. So what I like to do is I like to create what I call mini visions. And a mini vision would be where when I would get up in the morning, first thing I'm going to do in the morning is I'm going to sit up on the edge of the bed, because if you lay in bed, you'll go back to sleep. I'm going to sit up on the edge of the bed, I'm going to close my eyes, and I'm going to create a mental picture of what I would look like or what I would be doing if I was living this thing that I started journaling on, that I'm writing about. What do I look like? Because, see, so many people have, again, that's why we started with a character sketch. We started with a character sketch, we're ending with a character sketch. What do I look like being healthy? What do I look like? You know, I've told people this for years. You know, if you go to, particularly, this is more so in women's gyms. They do it in almost all of them now. But studies show that if a woman, they did this study on women. I don't know why they did it on women. It seems to apply more to women. But if a woman goes to a gym and works out in front of a mirror, it will decrease how much weight she will lose, and it will slow down the process of her body going through changes. Why? Because you're looking at a picture of the way you are now. You're sitting there looking at the way you are now, and you're exercising, but you're holding an image of yourself the way you are now. And as long as you hold that image of yourself the way you are now, everything in your body says, okay, we got to keep it that way. This is how we see ourselves. This is who we are. So we start with a picture, a character sketch. This is what I would look like. This is how I will be. This is the kind of feelings and emotions and attitudes, and this is the way I'll be. And then it ends with that. And that morning when I sit up on the side of the bed and close my eyes and say, this is what I would look like doing this. And you've got to create some kind of mental picture that creates positive emotional feelings. And then I just very quietly just acknowledge God in it. And Father, I thank you that this is who I am. I thank you that this, that I have the power to be this person, by this grace, by the grace of God, this is who I am. And this is the life I choose. And then I get up and go about my business. And so throughout the day, from time to time, I might just close my eyes and do a 60-second mini vision, where I just kind of shut my eyes and have a little, just create that picture. And remember, you want to create the picture or the thought until you create a feeling. Now, some people say, well, now let me say this. If you're not good at creating visual pictures, don't worry about it. Then just create a thought. Just think about it. It really, it's not about literally seeing it as much as it's about perceiving it or experiencing it. See, God perceives or experiences the end from the beginning. And then what you're trying to do is you're trying to experience something in the future, from our point of reference, something that would be in the future. You're trying to experience it as real right now. Now let me explain this to you. Time is not real. Time only exists in our experience. And there's a lot of scientific studies that have been done that show that time is very relative and time is very experiential. When you were a kid, summer was 9 years long. And when you get Alan's age, time flies. He's been preaching a series about it. I'm still 19. It don't mean nothing to me. Life is just one long spring break for me, So, but see, we look at the world through this finite intellectual concept that we have, and we think that's reality, and we very seldom say, God, your reality is what's real. And see, the word glory has to do with God's view and opinion, God's reality. God has a reality, we have a reality. We're basing our reality on what our mind has said is real, and instead of saying, why don't I connect with God in such a way that I feel such a oneness and connection with Him that how He sees things starts becoming comfortable to me. Well, see, with God there is no time. There's just now. There is no yesterday or tomorrow with God. There's now. That's it. And we are not, I know this is going to bend your mind a little bit. We are not really creating an image of something in the future that we are trying to become. We are deciding if we will live in the eternal now as we are. Because we are as He is right now. And the degree that we experience that is determined by our ability to embrace it as a present tense reality in Christ. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to take about 10 or 12 minutes worth of questions. And now let me give you the rules. And I do understand that you're holy rollers and so you probably want to obey them, but here's the way this will flow best. Raise your hand. He'll come to you with the microphone. Now listen to me. Do not hand anybody the microphone. If anybody tries to get that microphone, smack them with it. And here's why. As soon as you ask your question, as soon as they ask their question, I want you looking around so that the other people can raise their hand. While I'm answering the question, raise your hand. That way he can get positioned and we can just go from one question to another, and that'll help for the people that are watching on video right now. So if you have a question, raise your hand. We're going to get it to you, and hold your hand. Got to keep it up. He got to be able to find you. Hustle. And as soon as she asks her question, he will smack her with the microphone, and then you can raise your hand. All right.
Just wondering your thoughts on a vision board, benefits or reasons why not to use one.
I would think that you can use anything that works for you as long as it doesn't create the concept of trying to become. And so that has to do with how you deal with it internally. So if you use a vision board, you want to be able to look at whatever you're using to create your concepts. You want to be able to look at that, see that, and somehow just embrace that as being your now. And you really want to get to where you can shut your eyes and see that. As a matter of fact, if you have trouble visualizing, I've got all kinds of little exercises I teach people. I'll show you just one little exercise. Hold your hand up kind of in front of a light if you can. And then just close your eyes. Just stare at that right there at your hand. Close your eyes. And now you notice how just for like a millisecond you can see that? Literally do that exercise. Just literally go, okay, there's my hand. Close your eyes. There's my hand. Close my eyes. And even though you might start out just holding that image for a second or two, that's a second or two of exercise. And so you start practicing that, being able to see something through the lens of your mind. And then eventually you get to where you can shut your eyes and you can see what you look like at a certain weight. You can play a whole video in your mind that is perceived as being real to you. So if I was using a vision board, probably, and I'm not saying you should do it the way I would do. I'm just saying because we all have to figure out how this works for us. But what I would probably do is I'd use that vision board to bring myself to the place to where I could really just shut my eyes and see that. But having some type of pictures or drawings or graphs, that's a starting place to getting where I can see it. Questions? Clear as mud. I'll tell you, I'm better than I thought I was. All right. And if you will, if you have a question, just as quick as she asks her question, go ahead and raise your hand so he can get to you. And
you say to write in longhand.
Yes.
What if you cannot write in longhand?
You know what? It's amazing how many people, I don't know if you know this, but the school system, you do understand that schools have nothing to do with learning anymore. Everybody does understand. No, I'm serious, just to throw in a little political stuff. The NEA does not exist to help kids learn. They exist to have control. And so one of the things they're talking about now is doing away with longhand, which will be just a tragic mistake if they do. But the honest truth is you can affect yourself, but not as effectively. The reason it's not as effective when you print, because when you print, you're not connecting your letters, so you're breaking thought. Every time you pick that pencil up and put it back down, you're breaking the thought. So just start practicing writing longhand, even if you have to create your own version of it, which honestly, everybody's writing is their own version of it. Mine, there's only one person at work can read my writing, and it's not even me. So I got one daughter that can read anything I write. I don't know how she does it because I can't read it after I write it. But still, it's my version of writing longhand. Yes.
If you had a tragedy in like the alpha or theta stage of your life, is there a chance that when you get to that stage, if you're not prepared or schooled in this enough, that it could cause some kind of bad memory or
that's a great question. If many people will not, by the way, whoever's got the next question, get ready. Right here is going to get posted. One of the things that you realize, when you begin to get relaxed, if you tell yourself, all you got to do, this is this simple. People don't believe it's this simple. You just say, I will not encounter anything that I'm not ready to deal with. And if that's the parameters you establish, that'll be the way it'll work. But here's another thing. The more you're deeply entrenched in how good God is and in these factors, the easier it becomes to deal with tragedy. I'll give you an example. If you're in the alpha, now what I'll do a lot of times, I'll just take myself into an alpha theta state, And by the way, I do experiments with people because I actually will test people and test myself to see what levels they're able to get down to. And it's amazing. Sometimes you'll reach a much deeper level of meditation than you think you're in. And so I'll take myself into whatever level I go into, and I'll worship and I'll pray. And of course, now I'll tell you another thing I do. I do photo reading in the alpha state. Some of you guys heard me talk about photo reading. A lot of times I'll get myself in a real deep state, and and you can do this. You might not get the recall, learn how to do the recall, but you can take yourself to a real deep state and say, now I'm going to open my eyes, and everything I see I'm going to remember. And you just start flipping through the pages of your Bible. And the truth is, anytime I want to refresh the New Testament or refresh anything, I can read the New Testament in about 4 minutes. And so that's why you have to use a lot of notes and scriptures and stuff, because I'll just photo read something and go, okay, when I start speaking, it'll come back to me. I'll remember it. Anything I need to know will come to me. And so you can do the same thing. So whether you can do almost anything when you get the alpha state and you can stay there. But sometimes I'll be worshiping, I'll be praying, I'll be communing with the Lord, and I will inadvertently ask myself a question. I'll give you a good example. One time I was just worshiping and praying, and I got hungry all of a sudden. And I thought, man, alive, I can't be hungry. And I thought, this must be something. There's no reason for me to be hungry. This must be something that's keeping me from pursuing something here. And I remember I'm thinking these thoughts, and I just thought, I bet I've done this a lot. I wonder, I wonder where this started. Bam! And this is where I went back to discovering that my grandmother used food to manipulate me. Or like one time I just come through a physical thing, and I was meditating, I was praying, I was thinking, it just seems like every time I get time off, I feel bad or something. I wonder what that's about. All of a sudden, bam! I saw myself. I was like about 4 or 5 years old. I was sitting in the room. My mother was there. She was all beat up from where my dad had beat her up. She was getting ready to go for work, and I was crying. I was just saying, please don't go to work today. Please stay home today. And my dad would show up about once every month, beat my mother, and mercilessly steal all the food that we had and leave. And that was my fatherhood experience, And so I'm a little boy. My mother's been beat all night long. Well, she had to feed us, and she's one of these people. She was going to work, and so I'm watching this movie, and my mother makes this statement. She says, "Son, as long as I'm able, I have to work." Well, see, when you write stuff on your heart, it's never logical. You take information, it creates an emotion. You write something in your heart. The belief that I wrote on my heart at about 4 or 5 years old, from my mother making that statement, strong emotions, was, well, then the only reason not to work, the only excuse for not working is if you're not able. So my entire life, until I was nearly 40 years old, my entire life, every time I went on vacation, I either got sick or hurt myself. I couldn't get time off without something happening. Why? Because in my heart, the only justification for having time off was if I'm not able. So what you have to realize is that no matter how traumatic of an experience you go to, I've had people go back to blocked memories of being molested. I've had people go back to all kinds of things. In this state, and boy, now this kind of segues a little bit, but see, the word forgive means to send away. And sending away, see, forgiveness has nothing about you're not dealing with that person. You're not dealing with how you feel about that person. You're dealing with the offense that has come to you, the pain that's come into your life. An offense is something that makes you stumble. It's causing you to stumble at life. Now, you can forgive, you can send away an offense when you're in a meditative state. And I'm telling you, when you get up, it's over. I'm telling you, it is over. You're done with it. And so, if you have a tragic memory, that's when you realize, no, I don't have to be afraid here, because the fact that this is coming up means I'm at a place where I can deal with it. And so if you had molestation, if you're beat up or whatever, somebody wronged you, and that comes up, that's when you just say to the feeling. Right there, you just say, you know what? I don't want this feeling. I don't want this offense. I don't want this anger. I don't want this bitterness. I send you away. Leave me right now. And I'm telling you, it's over. And then you choose what you're going to replace it with. I choose to be happy. I choose to be free from these feelings. And I'm telling you, so if something traumatic does come, don't ever be afraid of it. And if it does scare you a little bit, just say, I choose not to deal with this right now. And it's over. You don't have to be afraid of meditating. So it can work for you in a number of ways. Yes.
I was just curious if you've ever had any physical health benefits in the techniques like that you're talking about. Have you used them to achieve greater health in your physical body?
Here you go. Got a question right over here you can get lined up on. Actually, I have walked out of most of my physical, and those of you that know anything about my past, I was born with a congenital kidney disease, and my kidneys were failing when I was 28 years old. By the time I was 21 years old, before I'd ever gotten saved, I probably had a dozen broke bones. I had 2 or 3 literally incurable diseases. I had more health problems than you can imagine. So, broke bones, disease problems, failing kidneys, all this kind of stuff. All the health issues in my life, even this wreck that I was in, pretty much I've walked out of this step by step, little by little, as in my heart, not only did I go to a place, make a choice, I send this away. I choose not to have this sickness. I choose not to have this pain. I don't need it. It's not bringing any value to my life. I choose this and see myself and experience myself living that. And that's pretty much how I've walked out of all my ailments and sicknesses and diseases. Does that address it? A day-to-day. Here's the day-to-day thing. Day-to-day thing is that, first of all, nearly every sickness we know of is directly or indirectly caused by stress. And a person who just meditates about 10 minutes a day, and there's studies, other people have done studies on this, I have done studies on this, where if I were to have you, if I could get you to relax and take you to the alpha state day, like doing a heart physics exercise, we could come back and probably check you 6 hours later, and you would still be less stressful than you would have been if we'd checked you every day before you ever did that exercise. So we find that people stay much more peaceful. Well, when you create stress, you create inflammation, and when you create inflammation, then your body becomes a host to, you become acidic, and then your body becomes a host to all manner of diseases. And so on a daily basis, you have more energy, you feel less stressful, and you find that your immune system functions better. You find all kinds of health benefits just kind of on a day in, day out basis. Here's something I do too, like, when I ride, I've been riding, God, I don't know how many years I've been riding. I've never had writer's block. When I get ready to ride, I sit down in front of my computer, I shut my eyes, I get inside my heart, I acknowledge God, and I just say, Father, I just want to flow in this day. I just, whatever you want me to write today, and I thank you that, that I can write, be creative, and flow in this, with no limitations. And I just open my eyes and start writing, and whether I write an hour or 4 hours, it just don't stop. And that's not intellect. That's just having to do with removing all the fears and all the blocks. So there's not a part of my life that I don't use this for. My sex life, everything. There's not a part of my life that I don't use this to enhance and bring greater quality to. And it becomes this peace and this absence of stress becomes the foundation of your life. We're going to try to get one more question. We've run out. Is it all right if I go over the time for questions, even if they have to start recording? Is that all right? Okay.
As you get older, a lot of people have problems sleeping, all the way through, have to get up for whatever reason. Assume that affects these dream stages, and how much effect does that have? And
well, let me give you a couple of practical things. Number one is, once you learn how to take yourself into the alpha state, like when I had this automobile accident I was in not too long ago, it really messed up my sleep because I had a torn ligament here, so I couldn't lay on this side. I had a torn ligament on this knee, so I couldn't lay on this side. I had a ruptured disc in my back, couldn't lay on my back or my stomach. So there was no position I could lay in that within about 10 minutes I was not in excruciating pain. So for 2 years, I never slept more than 15 minutes at a time. And so, man, that wrecks your health right there. So, by the time I get these surgeries, and it's amazing. There are some things I got healed from, some things I had to have surgeries from. People say, well, how come you don't get healed from everything? I'm like, if you follow your heart will take you through how you are willing to receive it. And sometimes you ain't going to receive it any other way than through a medical process. I'm all right with that. Sometimes you experience something incredibly supernatural. I'm all right with that. It doesn't matter to me. I'm just going to follow my heart. But anyhow, all that to say, when I came out of that, man, I had terrible sleep problems. And you can ask my wife, I would honestly, well, Alan knows this too. We used to travel together. I've always had sleep issues, but I got to where I would go 4 days at a time and maybe sleep 2 hours. And that ain't right. I'm just telling you. And it's bad for your health. And it had devastating effects on my health. So first of all, I started using magnesium because of cellular function and how it relaxes you and this sort of thing. And then what I started doing, actually even before I did that, is every time I would lay down and go to sleep, I would count myself down to the alpha state. I'd get down to the alpha state. I would say, now I'm going to count backwards from 100 to 0, and with each number I will get deeper and deeper into relaxation, and I will go to sleep. And that's how I put myself to sleep every night. And then if I woke up, I had to get up and use the bathroom, go to pain. The minute I laid back down, I would just take myself right back down to the alpha state, and I'd say, now I'm going to go to sleep, And that's how I learned to manage my sleep. And I use some natural things, when I need them, but I do that every night, and I'll do that through the night several times. All right, let's take us about a 15-minute break. We'll come back and we'll run this thing again, get some more questions, and see what we can do with it.